All right. So we're going to talk about living safely at home. Why are we talking about living safely at home? And why do we need to think about things like that? What do you suppose the main cause of accidents are at home? Yes. What does that cause? Falls. So one of the biggest things that we need to think about is how to prevent falls. There are certain things that happen on a daily basis or in life that we can't avoid. There are some things. Believe it or not, falls are a fact of life. Anybody can fall, right? Me, you, Amy. Who's fallen in this room? Yeah, I mean, we do. Whether you've got some kind of medical condition or not, we fall. And there are reasons why we fall. And some of them are worth looking at because we can actually change some of our risk factors for doing that. Now, sobering thought, 1 in 4 individuals over the age of 65 fall every year. How many in this room come in that category? I should have asked how many in the room do not come into that category. Right. So as we get older, people fall, but falling is not, let me rephrase that. Just because you get older does not mean to say you have to fall. Does that make sense? Okay. So yes, people over the age of 65, they have the statistics that says 1 in 4 people do fall. How many of those people do you think might fall a second time within the next 6 months? 2/3. So they say 2/3 of people who fall are more than likely to fall within the next 6 months. Again, a second fall. Falls are the leading cause of both fatal and non-fatal injuries, which is kind of sobering. You think, well, how can you die from a fall? Well, it can happen depending on what actually happens and how severe the fall is and what you do when you fall. You know, you may fall and break a hip. Hopefully the hip can be fixed. And then you come to us and we make you all good again. And then you go home and you've learned all sorts of stuff. But sometimes people, as they get older, don't heal as quickly, or they may be fearful of actually moving around once they've fallen and once they've broken something, right? What happens if you fall and you hit your head? It's the potential. You can have all sorts of things happen, you know, but it's not all doom and gloom. I just want you to know that. Yes. Say again. Oh, really? Ah, he's got something in his head, he said. Oh, right. You fell and hit your head. Oh boy. Yeah, not good. Oh, yikes. It's like watching Grey's Anatomy. Does anybody watch that? I've just started watching Grey's Anatomy. Oh my gosh, it's ridiculous. They have more problems in that hospital. Seriously. It's like, it's crazy. Everything happens in Seattle, apparently. I know I'm way behind. It came out 20 years ago. I'm just watching it now, you know. Anyway. So every 11 seconds, an older adult is treated in the ER for a fall. And every 19 minutes, an older adult passes away as a result of a fall. Those are sobering statistics. It's scary statistics, right? The chances of falling and being injured from a fall do increase with age, but it is not an inevitability, okay? My parents, actually, I can't say they haven't fallen, but they're 98 and 95. And my mom's fallen, I think, twice in her whole life. And my dad's fallen once. And I can tell you it's because they were not looking at the risk factors. And we're going to talk about those. Every year, the National Falls Prevention Resource Center leads a falls free initiative. Does anybody have any idea what day they might highlight falls in the year? What day of the year? No, not January 1. Although some people may be recovering from their, New Year's parties, so probably they should. First day of fall. They celebrate it or they highlight it on the first day of fall. Makes sense, right? Why not celebrate fall prevention on the first day of fall? I know the fall is kind of a different thing and we're watching leaves fall as opposed to hopefully people falling. But they do. So what they do is they provide resources for people to go out and educate. They provide funding for people to go out into communities and provide education on risk factors for falling and fall prevention. It's kind of like what we do. We do this every year, not just on the first day of fall. We go out to different places all the time and talk about fall prevention. And it's really important because not only obviously is it going to impact people's lives, but it's a huge financial burden as well on the resources because, you know, if people are not taking note and not preventing falls and not looking at the risk factors, you know, that's a huge financial burden too. So what are the common risk factors? So give me some reasons why people may fall. Just some generic reasons, not specific, just generic. What do you think one of the main reasons is that people fall? Yeah. Yes. So vision, hearing. Yep. A dark room. Yeah. All of those. Trip over stuff. Yes. People trip over stuff. You know, I class myself as still being fairly young, even though I do come in the category of the over 65 population. But I fall. Why do you think I fall? Yes, because I'm always in a hurry. I'm always in a hurry and I'm always trying to do 4 things at the same time. So I'm not paying attention to what I'm doing. Can I kind of adjust my behavior and avoid falling because of that reason? I could, but guess what? I've fallen more than once. So when I fall, I think, oh yeah, that was stupid. I'm not going to do that again. And then what happens 3 months later? I do it again. Yeah. And I think, well, that was really stupid. I'm not going to do that again. You know, fortunately, I've bounced so far. That's good. So some of the common risk factors for falling are a fear of falling. Once somebody's fallen, a lot of people are very fearful of falling a second time. Well, I wonder why. 2/3 of people who fall tend to fall again within the next 6 months. So that fear of falling makes you tentative. It makes you a little nervous about moving around. It makes you cautious. And sometimes that increases your risk for falling, right? There may be limitations in mobility. You know, we all have things that limit our mobility. We may have medical conditions that limit mobility. We may have weakness. We may have visual issues. We may have had a stroke. We may obviously have Parkinson's. All of those things can limit your mobility and your ability to be able to do things for yourself as well. So obviously you may be at slightly higher risk of falling because of that. Impaired balance. How many people have the same amount of balance as they did when they were 21? Can you stand on one leg still without holding on? Yeah, it's tough. It's tough. So as we get older, our balance might be impaired again. This can be impacted by your vision, by your hearing, by your vestibular system being off, all sorts of reasons why our balance may not be as good as it was. We may not, you mentioned about depth perception, we may not be getting as much proprioceptive feedback either. That's the brain telling us what's going on with our feet and that kind of thing. There are sensation issues. So there's a lot of reasons why. And weakness. Anybody feel as strong as they did when they were 25? Yeah, I certainly don't. I know that. I can't do what I used to do when I was 25. If I was to get down on the floor now, I would struggle to get back up again. I will be honest. I have to literally have something to hold on to get up from the floor, which is really scary. What happens if you fall on the floor in the middle of the room? It's really difficult to get back up again, right? So reduce muscle strength. And then poor reaction times. How many people react the same way as they used to when they were a toddler? What do toddlers do when they fall? they bounce and they get right back up again. Mind you, they are closer to the floor to start with, aren't they? Well, some of us are still fairly close to the floor, to be honest with you, but it's a lot more difficult. You don't stop yourself from falling as much. You know, I like to walk and I sometimes try and run. I try. And, you know, frequently I'll catch my toe on a bump in the road or something on the road. And you do that kind of number and you hope that nobody's watching you and you hope that you don't go down on the floor, right? And because our reaction times are not as good and we don't respond as quickly. And your first reaction, of course, is to put your hands out, fall on your side, and then our bones aren't as good as they used to be. So then you have all, yeah, see, I got people that are feeling this while I'm talking. So we talked a little bit about health factors. There are a lot of health factors. We've talked about some of them, right? We've talked about the vestibular system issues. We've talked about vision and hearing impairments. What are some other medical conditions or medical issues that we may have that increases our risk factor for falling? Orthostatic hypertension. Yes. Yes. And that is really important. We did this. Yeah, we did this talk yesterday and we talked quite a lot about this. So blood pressure changes. Okay. If you're transitioning from a lying position to a sitting position, how many people feel like, "Oy," or if you're sitting and you stand up too quickly, what happens? Yeah. My husband did this yesterday. In fact, I said at the talk yesterday, I said, yeah, it was really fun because my husband suddenly got up off his chair and started doing this kind of number. And I'm like, what is wrong with you? And he said, oh, I think I got up too quickly, because that can happen. That's a blood pressure change. So if you know that you have blood pressure issues, I have the same thing. When I sit up after I've been in bed, when I sit up on the side of the bed, I'll be honest, I sit for a few seconds and kind of accommodate to that change, because I know that if I don't, I'm heading to the wall on the side of the bedroom. My cat tries to get me up fast, but I try and ignore him. And then when I actually stand up, I also stand for a minute before I go. A lot of people don't do that. They'll stand up and run. My mom does. She's horrible. She stands up and she goes. And I keep telling her, Mom, you need to stop. Get your balance. Even if it's not a blood pressure issue, accommodate the balance. Make sure you're steady before you start walking. So even something as simple as that, being a little bit more aware of what your body is doing, can help to decrease that risk factor. If you have cardiac issues or respiratory issues, shortness of breath or fatigue, that kind of thing, you need to be aware of that, because shortness of breath can cause issues with disorientation. It can cause issues with, being able to walk as well as you were before, that kind of thing. So be very cautious and very aware of that. Stroke is a huge factor that could increase your risk. I don't know if anybody's ever had a stroke in this room or even a TIA or whatever, but a stroke can certainly impact you medically. It can impact your balance. It can impact your vision. It can impact your depth perception. It can impact your proprioception, your sensation, all sorts of things. So again, if you know you've got some issues, weakness in one side of your body or difficulty with moving a body part, that kind of thing, hard to see what's going on in one side of the room. Again, all of those things need to be taken into account when you're doing your activities or even just walking from one place to another. How many people in this room do not take medication? I'm going the opposite way here. I'm not asking who does. I'm asking who does not take medication. Amy's going to put her hand up. Okay, we have 3 people in the room that do not take medication. So the rest of us do, right? So what can medication do? Is anybody aware of what some medications can do? All kinds of nonsense, right? They have side effects. And sometimes you have to take pills to counteract the side effects, right? So you need to be aware of side effects of medication, because things like blood pressure medication can affect you. you know, a sudden change. Again, we've talked about that sudden change in blood pressure. Things like, I'm trying to think of some of the medications. I'm sure some of the Parkinson's meds cause all sorts of issues as far as, you know, balance and those kind of things. But you need to be aware of what your side effects of your medication are, because it can cause dizziness, it can cause fatigue, you know, it can cause all sorts of things. So be aware of what your side effects of your medications are, because again, if you're not prepared and your medication causes you dizziness, the chances are you're not going to be aware of that. Do you know what I mean? So you need to look at the medication side effects. I'm rambling, sorry. What else? Muscle weakness, both in the trunk and the lower extremities. Your core is very important. That's what helps us to stay upright. It helps us to walk. It helps us to move around safely. So muscle weakness can cause a big problem if you don't have, you know, that good strength. Blood sugar changes. Anybody diabetic? You know, again, if you have a diabetic episode, if you have a low blood sugar episode, what does it make you feel? Very weak. Yeah. Yeah. So it can cause, and it can cause disorientation just the same. You know, I mean, a lot of people don't always know what's going on. So again, even monitoring things like your blood sugars is very important. You know, sometimes I get, you know, really, I forget to eat sometimes. And, you know, when I get really, really hungry, I feel really horrible. It's like you need to eat. You know, you get all kind of weak and wishy-washy, and, you know, you need to eat. I went for a walk one morning, and it was a long walk, trust me. And it's about 95 degrees right now. It's horrible. This was before the storm. And I came back, and I'm not kidding. It took me till the middle of the afternoon to rehydrate and get myself back, because I'd got so dehydrated. So again, hydration, really, really important. Watch for that. Okay. So all of these things are factors that may not be controllable, but some of them actually are. You take your blood pressure medication, you understand what your side effects are, you are aware of what your body is saying to you. You are aware of your deficits, and so consequently you accommodate to them, right? That's what rehab's about. We teach how to compensate for you know, physical difficulties, or we teach you strategies. We try and get things back. But one of our roles is to teach you strategies to cope with the deficits that you've got. So that's really, really important. What about our environment? Okay. What can we do in our environment to make it safer for ourselves? We're talking about living safely at home, right? So there are lots of factors that can make you fall. We've already talked about medical issues. We've talked about some of the risk factors. What about your environment? What things in your environment? I'm going to wander out of my bubble for a minute because I need a drink of water. But it's talking about being dehydrated. See, I'm thirsty now. What things in the home could be risk factors for falling? Yes, pets. Now, I only have a problem with my pet when he wants something to eat. Otherwise, he's, you know, I mean, we're just living in the house to serve him. And, you know, the only time he pays any attention to us whatsoever is if he needs feeding. So, but what does he do? He gets around my feet. It's the only time he shows any affection whatsoever. Otherwise, he's hopeless. But yes, pets, if you've got a dog, especially something like a dog, all over you, right? They like attention. They like to run up to you. Grandkids do the same. Mine are a little bit older now. I can see them coming now. But when they were little, they used to be all over me as well. So grandkids and pets. Yes. What else in your environment? Say again. Clutter and throw rugs. Somebody mentioned rugs before, right at the very beginning. So clutter and rugs on the floor. Why is that a risk factor for falling? You can stand on them, you can slip on them, you can trip over them, especially if you are using a device of some description. If you use a walker or a cane, or you do not pick your feet up quite as well as you did before, there's a good chance you're going to fall over something on the floor, and you're not, you know, you're not going to maybe be aware of it. What else? Anybody else got anything else? So otherwise, the house is really safe, right? Yes. Sharp corners on tables. What did you say? Depth. Oh, steps. I'm like, sorry, I need to call my doctor and get my ears syringed. Steps. Yes. Very important. Now, most of us kind of remember that we've got steps and things, but I will tell you, when I'm at my parents' house, they have stairs, and I inevitably miss the last step. Why would I miss the last step more than any of the others? I'm a little cautious on steps because I don't do them as often as I used to, but the bottom step always throws me for a loop. Why? Yeah, it is a visual thing. It's that surface change. You know, it's very difficult. I always think there's another step. So things like dark rooms or same surfaces or different surfaces can cause a problem sometimes. Light is really important to be able to see what you're doing. So again, if you've got a dark room, somebody at the talk to me yesterday said, is it just men that like dark houses? Or, you know, my husband likes the house to be really dark and you can't see what's going on. And I'm like, yeah, no, my daughter likes her house dark as well. I don't know why. I'm no curtains, lights on, you know, bright light all the time. But visual lighting is really, really important as well. We live in a state where it is constantly sunny, except for the beginning of the week when it was not sunny, it was raining. And I really loved it for about 12 hours. And then I'm like, okay, now it needs to stop. Yeah. But most of the time it's really bright. So when you go from being outside to going inside, what happens? You have to adjust to that change, because a lot of times, even if you have a fairly bright house, there's a significant light change. What happens at night when you have to get up to go to the bathroom? Night lights, yeah, because if you're waking up in the middle of the night, if you put a bright light on, you're going to be startled and you're going to be wide awake and probably never get back to sleep again. But you're also going to have to wait for that adjustment. If you have night lights, you've got a little bit more diffuse lighting. You can see what you're doing, but it's not going to kind of startle you. So that light and dark is really important. So again, stairs, well-lit stairs, steps at the front of the house need to be well lit. A lot of times, if you do have some kind of visual or a perceptual issue, like the depth perception problem, if you put a strip of something a little bit different, like a bright strip on the edge of the step, it will highlight it for you. It will actually indicate to you that, oh, there's a step. We need to see it, because sometimes it is difficult to do that differentiation between a surface that may be the same and it looks the same. Does that make sense? Do you understand what I mean by that? So if you're going on a carpeted stair to a carpeted floor, sometimes it's hard to see that transition if you've got vision issues. So clutter, we talked about clutter. What else? What other things? What do you suppose, or where do you suppose the most hazardous room in the house is? Kitchen? Say, I think the bathroom. I mean, yeah, me in the kitchen is pretty hazardous. My husband would tell you that. However, the bathroom to me is a little bit more of a hazardous place. Why? You got a shower? Yeah. Why else? Slipping on water. Usually there's water involved, right? Thank you. It's usually one of the smallest places in the house. It's not usually a ballroom-sized room, right? And what is in it? Toilet, shower, bath, sink, cabinets, none of which have soft surfaces, right? Everything is hard in a bathroom. So if you fall in a bathroom, it's not going to be quite like falling on a carpet or maybe falling against your sofa. It's going to be falling against something that's really hard. Yeah. So it's kind of a hazardous place to be. So it is actually one of the places where people have the most difficulty. And that's because you tend to be on your own in the bathroom, you know, right? I don't usually have a lot of people in the bathroom with me. So I tend to be on my own in the bathroom. It is a small area. It's full of hard surfaces. And what are we doing when we're in the bathroom? We're getting wet. Well, not every time. I mean, hopefully. But yes, you're taking a shower. You're performing an activity that is actually quite risky. right? If you take into account, okay, my balance is not that good. You know, I don't see as well as I did before. I'm in a small room. I'm taking a shower. I can show you if I stand and close my eyes, watch what happens to me. See if I can make it happen. I can feel it. I'm standing with my feet really close. Did you see what happened to me when I closed my eyes? Right. So if I'm standing in the shower and I've got water pouring over my head and I've got soap and everything, and then I put my hands over my head to wash my hair, what do you suppose I'm doing? How risky is that? Pretty risky. I'm over the age of 65, right? So I'm at high risk of falling or higher risk of falling. You don't think about that, but that's actually one of the riskiest things that you can do. I will tell you also that showering or bathing is one of the most fatiguing activities that you will do as well. It's actually very energy consuming. And so you're risking the balance, you're getting tired, you're in a hard surface that's wet. You have soap running down your face. Does that sound safe? No. And how often do we do it? Pretty much every day, right? So you need to be aware of that because there are things you can do to make it safer. So what can you do? What can you do to make your bathroom safer? Grab bars. Please do not use suction ones and do not hold the towel rail. The towel rail is not a grab bar. It's to hold a towel. It's not to hold a human being when they're trying to fall. Okay. So grab bars. Yes. What else? A shower seat. Yes. A shower seat can be a huge advantage. Do you know how long it took me to persuade my 98-year-old mother to get a shower seat in her shower? By the way, she still takes a shower every morning on her own at 98 years old. I know, it's ridiculous. So do you know how long it took me? Probably 15 years to persuade her that she needed a seat in the shower. She's a horrible mother of an OT. She's horrible. And she has a PT for a granddaughter as well. Hopeless. It's hopeless. But anyway, we finally persuaded her to get a seat in the shower. Why is a seat going to make it easier for you or safer for you to do that activity? Right. Well, A, you're not likely to fall off the seat like you are if you stand in the shower and lift your foot up, or you're standing in the shower and doing this, right? So it makes it safer because you're sitting. The other thing you can do is put a handheld shower in. So you can control where the water's going and you don't have it pouring over your head. You can wash your feet a lot easier. Oh, I didn't get it. I gave one of my long handle sponges to somebody and I've never replaced it, but a long handle sponge can make a huge difference so that you can wash your feet. You don't have to bend over. A lot of people who fall have this fear of leaning forwards. They do. They don't like to lean forwards because generally they've probably gone over that way. So a long handle sponge sounds silly, can make it a lot safer for you to do that activity in the shower. It's good for washing your back as well, unless you've got somebody else to do that for you. What else can we do to make the bathroom safer? Non-slip surface. Most showers now have non-slip surfaces. The only thing I would caution you with is if you have one of those non-slip mats that have the little sucky things on the bottom, those are a little scary to me because sometimes the water can get underneath and they are just all over the place. So sometimes the adhesive strips are better, or having the surface of the shower made less slippery, or making sure that the shower surface is already up to code as far as the non-slip surface is concerned. I would always have some kind of a shower mat outside the shower when you are using the shower. When you are not using the shower, it needs to be lifted up off the floor. Okay. A lot of people don't do that. They'll leave the shower mat down. But again, then you've got a trip hazard when you go into the bathroom. So be cautious of that. As we get older, it gets a little more challenging for some of us to get up and down. We already talked about getting up and down off the floor, almost impossible, right? But even getting up and down off a low surface can be a challenge. If something is challenging and you can't do it, you try, you can't do it. What happens to you? How do you feel? Frustrated? Exhausted. What? You lose confidence. You get anxious. I've had folks that have got stuck on the toilet because they've not been able to get up off the toilet. All right, guys. What is the standard height for a regular toilet? I'm not talking about the high boys. And ladies, if you know, because I know, what is the standard height of a regular toilet? Say again? 20, I wish. How long? How much? 14 inches. 14 inches. That's a standard toilet. I know. It's ridiculous. A standard toilet is 14 inches. I know. We get used to it. So I have the high boy toilets at my house. How tall are those, do you think? How tall is a high, you know, the high boy toilets? They're putting them in all the new houses now. Mm-mm. She's good. Have you measured them? Yeah, 17 to 18 inches. Well, does that sound like a long way off the floor to you? It's not particularly. It is when you're short. Yes, I will say that. Okay, so I have the high boy toilets, and yes, it is 17 to 18 inches tall. So you got another 3 or 4 inches, 5 inches maybe, right? Off a, no, 3 inches. Yeah. So how hard do you suppose it might be if you've got problems with lower extremity weakness or mobility issues and you are 6'4"? How hard do you suppose it might be to get off a 14-inch toilet? Pretty hard, I would say. Oh, and the best is, so I have high boy toilets at home, and then I go to work and I feel guilty if I use the disabled toilet. So I go in the regular toilet and it's like, oh my God, where is the toilet? Seriously. It's like, I know I'm going to land. I know I'm going to land, but it's a long way down because you get used to using a high one. Anyway, what can you do to the toilet to make it safer and easier for you to get off it? Get a rise. Yes, you can get risers for the actual toilets. You can also get frames that go around the toilet that can be adjustable so that you can actually have handrails by the toilet as well. So, you know, even something as simple as that. And I tell you this because we have had people who have got stuck on the toilet and they have not taken anything into the bathroom to alert somebody that they are stuck on the toilet. Are you looking at each other? Has that happened? They're looking at each other like, yeah, we remember that. People have got stuck in the bathtub. You know, they're taking a bath and not let anybody know. And we've had patients who've been in the bathtub for 3 days before somebody realizes that they're in the bathtub. Can you imagine what your body does when that happens? It goes into complete shutdown. It's horrible. And it's very scary. Can you imagine how scary that is for somebody? So if you can avoid that situation by using a seat in the shower or have a grab bar, or here's a concept, call somebody and say, if you live on your own, or you know, you're going to take a shower and you live on your own, call a friend and say, hey, if I don't call you back in half an hour, will you come and check on me? Buddy system. The life alert systems is another system you can do. And guess what? We all have that little device now. Mine's playing up this morning. It won't charge. I don't know what's going on with it, but we have a mobile phone. Most of us have the mobile phone. And even if we don't have a mobile phone, most of us have a phone at home that doesn't stay stuck on the wall like it did when I was a teenager. It was stuck to the wall and you had to have a conversation right there, right? You have this mobile device. Take it into the bathroom with you. Take it in. Put it somewhere close by so that if, heaven forbid, you get stuck on your toilet or you are in the shower, put the phone somewhere close by so that you can let somebody know, hey, can you please come and help me? So he's got, yeah, perfect. So you can have it moved out of the way when somebody else comes and doesn't necessarily need it. Uh-huh. Perfect. Yeah, perfect. There are so many things. Yeah. I know. She tends to ignore me. She tends to ignore me. I don't know what it is. I don't even have a she. I have an English man because I thought maybe he'll understand my accent a little bit better. But no, no. And Alexa, at night, Alexa is wonderful, but you've got to be careful what you say because she listens. Oh, she listens. Yeah, I know Alexa is a bit scary, but she is very helpful. We have all our lights attached to Alexa. So all we have to do when we go to bed at night is say, Alexa, good night, and she'll turn the lights off for us so we don't have to go around and turn all the lights off. So we have the technology now to be able to make our environment safer. And you're right. If she's paying attention, she will respond to you. I mean, she tends to respond when it's like, she'll come on with mine and say, I'm sorry, I can't help you with that. And I'm like, well, I haven't asked you anything. Why are you coming on? But when I wanted to do something, she doesn't do it. It's very annoying. But anyway, so same. Yeah. I'm telling you, they always, here's what you need to do. So go in and talk about something, and I will guarantee you every advertisement that you get on any of your games or anything like that will be focused on what you've just talked about. It's really scary. I always talk very quietly when I'm talking about something I shouldn't be talking about. Anyway, we've digressed. But so as far as the bathroom is concerned, simple fixes can make it much safer for you. And if the only thing you take away from this is that I am going to take my cell phone into the bathroom with me, I'll be happy. That will make me very happy. When you are buying equipment, some people need to use equipment. Equipment is really good if you need it. It's good to make things safer for you. It will keep your independence going, and it will make it easier for you to do something. However, it needs to be adjusted correctly. I was just saying to Amy, and used correctly. I was just saying to Amy, unfortunately, I saw two people leaving today where the wife was pushing them on a four-wheeled walker, which is not what the four-wheel walker is for. A wheelchair is to push somebody in. It's good for sitting down and resting, but it's not a wheelchair. So, using equipment correctly, adjusting equipment correctly is really, really, really important. And it can make things a lot safer for you. So we're still talking about environment. I think we've pretty much talked about most of the environment things. We talked about getting up and down off high and low chairs and beds. That makes a difference too, just the same with the toilet. It's just as hard to get up off a low bed. And then some things, just some generic things. Footwear. Honestly, why are we talking about footwear? Why is it important to wear appropriate footwear? If you have mobility issues or if you have sensory issues, why is it important to use proper footwear? It does, and it can cause more problems. My husband has neuropathy in his feet. It's chemo induced. It was from chemo, and he has sensory issues with his feet. He does not feel the floor properly. So walking around in flip-flops is a real big no-no. Does he still do it? Of course he does. And then he injures himself. But he knows he can't. So when he goes out in the garden, he wears proper shoes. When we go anywhere, he wears proper shoes because otherwise he ends up doing something crazy. So wearing proper footwear is really important. Simple thing, but we don't think about it. Slippers, those are like the worst thing ever. My mom wears these slippers and it just is horrible because they flop and they flip, they get stretched out, and they don't. So watch your footwear. Make sure you're using proper footwear. We talked about distractibility. That's one of the reasons I tend to fall is because I'm trying to do 17 things at the same time. And then I say, I'm not going to do that again. And then I still do 17 things at the same time and get distracted. But distractibility is really important. So if you are doing something that you have to really think about, getting from A to B using a walker so that you can focus on what you're doing. Don't answer the phone at the same time. Don't talk to somebody at the same time. Don't turn around suddenly because somebody just says your name. Think about what you're doing. Something as simple as that can save you an accident. Okay. Overreaching. Again, this is a simple thing. But a lot of people have fallen because they've overreached for something. They've gone outside their base of support, and it's very easy to lose your balance when you do that. And we don't have as good reaction times, remember? So you lose your balance, you know, your reaction time isn't as good. And instead of being able to steady yourself, you go down, right? So overreaching for things. Make sure you've got the things that you use on a frequent basis where it's easy for you to get them. You know, you don't have to have them put somewhere away. Put them where you're going to use them, and organize your space so that it's efficient and safe for you to be able to access the things that you need to access. And then we just talked about inappropriate use of equipment and also correctly adjusting equipment. If you can avoid using things like step stools and that kind of thing, please do. I mean, if you're nice and tall, I see all these nice tall gentlemen who can very easily get things out of cabinets. I, on the other hand, have to either stand on a stool or climb onto a countertop, which I don't do very often anymore. I used to do it a lot, but you can use a reacher. Has anyone got one of these? Does anybody have one of these? Get one. These are the handiest things ever, picking things up off the floor if you've dropped something, as opposed to having to reach over and do it. Picking something light up from a cabinet. Now, I would not suggest a can of beans. Don't do that, because then you're going to end up with broken toes or a cracked head or something. But light things, getting things off the hangers in your closets, you can do that with this. Don't try and use it for anything really, really heavy. I'm not going to tell you the snake story because I've done that. I know I have in the past. I'm not talking about the snake today. There are snakes. I went for my walk this morning and it smells of dead fish and snakes. I've got dead snakes in the neighborhood and fish on the road. I mean, we were flooded pretty badly. And it's like, oh my God, I wish somebody would come and get the fish. I feel so bad for them because they're like little things. Anyway, all the things we have just talked about are factors that we can change, right? Can we change some of the things, the behaviors that we do, the way that we do things, the equipment that we use, getting equipment that might make it easier, carrying a cell phone into the bathroom? It's all things that we can change. Do you think it would make it safer for you to be at home if you did that? So it's simple things. It's not rocket science. It's stuff that we should know and we should do. I cannot, for the life of me, I cannot get my dad to use his cell phone. I tell him, please take it into the garden with you so that if mom needs you, well, I don't need it in the garden. I call mom, where's dad? Oh, I don't know. Okay. Does he know? Has he gone out? Sometimes he goes out, leaves her. 98 years old, and he leaves. I'm like, Dad, you have a phone. Please take it with you. You know, you never know. Well, I don't need it. I'm only going round to the shop. Okay. Well, you may fall off the curb, or you may fall off the step, or you may get kidnapped. I don't know, but you have a phone. Take it with you, please. Crazy. All right. What else can we do? So home modifications, just let's talk about this really quickly. So you can put handrails beside the front door. You can mark the step edge. You can improve the lighting around the house, right? You can remove your throw rugs and clutter, clear your pathways, especially if you're using adaptive equipment. That's really, really important. If you do have a stair lift is a good thing. My mom does have a stair lift. She lives in a 2-story home, so she does have a stair lift. My dad, on the other hand, uses it to carry the groceries upstairs because they live upstairs. It's an upside down house. So he walks up the stairs and carries the groceries on the stair lift. Yeah. And the grandkids love it. It's like being at Disney World. Grab bars, shower chairs, handheld showers, long handle sponges, portable cell phones, rearrange things that you use frequently to make it easier for you, organize stuff. Use adaptive equipment to help you if you need it to do an activity that's going to make it safer for you. Use night lights, remote light controls. Those are a good thing as well. My husband, it cracks him up at Christmas. It's like, oh my gosh, how many remote controls do we need for all the lights that you put all over the house? But he's very good. You could usually get about 3 or 4 of them on one remote control, which is really nice. Personal emergency response systems. You know, think about that. I mean, my mom and dad still very fortunately have them each other. They've been married 72 years and they still have each other. But again, they're not always with each other. And so we finally persuaded them to get an alert system. My niece lives next door, but one to them, and my sister lives just down the road as well. But we got them an emergency alert system because we're not always going to be there. You know, we just don't know when something's going to happen. So think about that. Be very careful about your medication management as well. Medication management systems are a really good thing as well because it keeps you on track as to what you're doing with your medications. It's very easy to think, did I take that medication? Oh, maybe I didn't. Let me take another one. You know what I mean? So if you have an organizer for your medication, again, that's a good idea as well. Say again? There are all sorts of different systems. I mean, I have, for mine, I just have like because I don't take very many medications, I do just one that's got every day. So I put my medications in that I need to take during the day, but you can have systems that are preset by the pharmacist. They will put all your medications into preset containers. I have a tracking system on my phone that alerts me when I'm supposed to take a medication. And then I just click on it and say, yes, I've done it. You do have to pay attention to it though, because it's really easy to ignore it as well. But that's, again, a simple thing that you can have on your phone that helps you, you know, to say, okay, this is when I'm supposed to take this medication at 8 o'clock this morning. It gives you an alert and you have to go in and you have to say, okay, yes, I've taken it. But the pharmacist, there are so many things now that you can say again. Absolutely. You know, lots of different kinds of containers that you can get that will only open at a certain time, so that if you've got somebody who does get confused with medications, it times it so that they have to, and you can track, you know, whether they've taken the medication or not. You know, there are lots of things that you can do with that, but that again is helpful. Home automation. I told you we have Alexa. She's a nuisance, but she's very good at switching the lights on and off. So, you know, I mean, hey, that's good. She plays music for us sometimes, but that's hilarious as well because you ask her to play music and it's really randomly bizarre. And then that's it. Yes. What's that? Sport. I mean, I recommend for anybody, regardless of age and disability, to participate in activity, whatever activity you feel you want to, whether it's walking, whether it's, you know, dancing. Oh, my parents danced until they were like 80. They ballroom danced. Yeah. Are you a ballet dancer? I can tell. I danced until I was 19 and then I decided to be an OT instead. So, boxing. I know Parkinson's boxing is phenomenal for Parkinson's. Yoga, Tai Chi, exercises, upper extremity, lower extremity exercises. I highly recommend activity and exercise. The more active you are, the more active you stay, the more active you're going to be, right? Even if it's only like my mom walking up and down her living room 20 times in a day. That's what she does. If she can't get outside to walk, she'll walk up and down and she'll be walking. I'm on 17. Okay, mom, keep going. Coming back. I'm on 18 now. You know, that's what she does. So just staying active. So I'm not sure what you mean by sports as far as participating in sports, but I mean, if you can play tennis, yes. Well, you can get injured, yes. So now I see what you're asking. That would come under the risky behavior situation. So you have to know what your limitations are, and you may have to modify what you do. Because yes, if you're playing a very active sport and your mobility may not be as good as it was, you're automatically putting yourself at risk. It's like me running. You know, I run, or try. I run. Is it sensible? Probably not. Sometimes it's not. No, but I do it. But I understand the risk factors that I'm taking. Have I fallen? Absolutely. Twice, badly. And I had my cell phone with me and I called. So you have to assess the risks. Tennis is a wonderful activity. And if you've played it for a long time, you've got that muscle memory. But as your body tells you you're not quite as active as you were, or you're having increased difficulty with balance, your reaction time isn't as good, then you are increasing your risk factor for falling if you continue to do it. So it's understanding what you can do. We do. Thank you. And I try and tell my dad that when I call him and he's outside in the garden, he doesn't take his cell phone. So he wouldn't, that would probably be actually sensible for him to do it. He runs into the house to answer his home phone. And you're right, it is not. If you are in the middle of doing something, if you are, you know, taking a walk with somebody, you know, walking and talking sometimes can be very difficult. Especially if you have to focus on that talking. So yes, I agree. Answering the phone all the time is not appropriate. My husband, it drives him crazy because I'll come out of the grocery store and somebody's calling me and I'm looking at it and wandering into the middle of the parking lot, you know. So yes, you are correct. It's not. You know, if somebody's calling you, they will call you again if it's important. I try and tell my dad that, but he's 95. I can't tell him anything, really. Mm-hmm. It's right. I mean, and it's very dangerous, not only from the fact, and I had a very, very good friend who was a police officer, and he used to say to me, do not ever, ever use your cell phone when you're walking to your car because people watch. And he said, it is very dangerous, especially for women, to not be aware of what's going on in their surroundings. And I think that's the problem. I think everybody now has got so attached to the cell phone. So even if you haven't got issues with mobility, which again, shouldn't be using a cell phone if you're, you know, focusing on walking across where cars are coming and goodness knows people are backing out of parking spaces. But it's also incredibly important to be very aware of what your surroundings are like, because heaven forbid there are some people who would take advantage of that. And he drilled that into my head. As you can tell, I don't always take notice of it. I try. Now I will because I've thought about it, see. But yes. Any questions? Mm-hmm. 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 Yes. Yeah. Funnily enough, I was talking to my granddaughter yesterday. She's going to school. Have somebody with you. And not only that, it's actually more fun. If you're going for a walk and you've got somebody with you, it's actually more fun. If you're exercising, it's more fun to have somebody with you as well. But yes, from a safety perspective. And then if something did happen, you've also got somebody there who can be aware of what's happened to you. So it is good to partner up with somebody. So yeah, my granddaughter is going back to university again. And, you know, they are very strict about having somebody with you. Definitely. We got right off the track, but it's all good safety, all good safety stuff. It is. You do have to be aware of. Yes. Mm-hmm. 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 Oh, darn. Yeah. Did you all catch that? His wife sneakily moved the furniture around and he got up to go to the bathroom and it was dark and he didn't see that the furniture had been moved. So yes, being familiar with your environment and not moving things around and making sure you've got that light, paying attention. And again, I think you said at the very beginning as well, sometimes we are overconfident with our abilities. That was what I was sort of thinking about with you as well, that we think we can do a lot more than we probably should be doing. So again, it's having that insight as to, like I said, listening to what your body's telling you, making sure that you're paying attention and modifying your behavior. Doesn't mean you have to stop. It just means you have to think about a new way of doing it that might be safer or a new activity that might be safer. Yes. Yep. And that's what I said, that overconfidence. I think, a lot of us feel that. I still think I feel like a 25-year-old until I get down on the floor and then I realize, yeah, no, I'm not. Oh, that's nice. Mm-hmm. That's nice. Uh-huh. So they're not on all the time. That's kind of like night lights sometimes had the sensors that you can do that where you walk past them or they change automatically when it gets dark, they come on, but then they would be on all the time. That's nice. The sensors on the skirting boards are a good idea. All right. Any other questions? Yes. Moving around and stretching. Yep. Because you can stiffen up when you sit in the same place for a long time. So I should have had you get up halfway through. I'm going to do that next time I come. I'm going to have you get up halfway through and do a stretch. Make sure that you're all staying awake and moving. We'll have our ballet dancer here. Do our stretches. Oh. All right. Thanks, everybody. I hope you've learned something and I hope you're going to pay attention to some of the things that I said. Right? He is. He's standing up and getting his balance before he runs away.